Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One-Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm reviewing 65 from Flying Pig Games, a Vietnam War squad-based tactical combat game. And specifically, I'm looking at the gameplay in the solo expansion. Disclaimer that I received a review copy of the core game and the expansion. I'm always looking for good tactical and skirmish games I can play solo. How does 65 hold up? Let's find out and get to the list. I'm going to start with a mix off the bat at number 5, and that's the solo scenario design. There are 6 scenarios in the solo expansion, kind of telling an ongoing story even though there is no campaign mode. And on the positive side, they each feel different with their own specific quirks and special rules and objectives. They also have a nice mix of more narrative missions and ones just focused on combat, like some of them have events that you trigger or choices you make. But on the negative side, the balance doesn't always feel quite right for them. They can be overly easy or overly hard. And also, while they all have some randomized elements, the replay isn't great for many of them. Once you've seen it, you'll kind of be walking through the same paces. But my number 4 is a pro, a very important one for a skirmish game, and that's that the basic tactical combat and using your squad works really well. You can build big stacks of units to get stronger attacks, you can use your leaders to coordinate multiple units, you can throw down smoke to support an advance, you can have one person pin a unit down with gunfire while another one rushes in, so all the core kind of combo-licious tactics of squad-based combat work really well here, and it's nicely done. I have another pro at number 3, which is the core solo AI system. I think it works smoothly and really well. Basically, for each impulse or action of the AI, you just draw one card from their own deck. It'll tell you which units activate and whether they move or fire, and everything's really laid out in a clean fashion. Moving, even though it can get a bit complicated, has a nice little matrix on the back of the rulebook that walks you through exactly what they prioritize. You don't have to make too many choices or kind of decide between either or. And even Ops Fire, the bane of many of these games, is really simple. If you move a certain number of hexes or get right next to an enemy, you draw a card and you see if they shoot you. But I'm down to a full-on con for my number 2, the biggest one about the game, and specifically, again, this is just the solo mode, but I feel like the variety there is not as good as I could hope, and it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. To be specific about what I mean, in the competitive multiplayer game, you have tanks and trucks you can take into combat, you have helicopters, you can control both the NVA and the Viet Cong and the US troops. But in solo play, they cut out all those cool units, you just have your basic troopers, you can only be the US, so it feels a little limited, although I'm sure it kept the rule set much simpler, and at the same time, the fact that you only have 6 missions, I already said they have somewhat limited replayability, cuts down how much solo might be worth to you if you don't think you'll play the full multiplayer game as well. But don't worry, I am going to end with a full-on pro, something I really enjoy, which is the action card system and the basic give and take of time and pushing your luck in the game. So in the game, you have this hand of action cards, which you play to activate your units to fire or shoot, and can also play in reaction to gain better defenses. It's very similar to the system in Combat Commander, both Europe and Pacific, one of my favorite war games of all time, and it works really well here too. And another cool thing is all the attacks are pulled from the action deck, and there are these end to turn cards in the action deck, and when they come out, time advances and all the units can activate again. So you have this kind of lack of surety of how many units you can move, which builds some really interesting tempo choices into the game and makes the timing of the scenario never a sure 100% thing. And I really enjoy all of it, the choices of playing my cards and kind of the timing choices of how I move forward in the scenario. Overall, I think 65 is a great skirmish combat game. I really love the kind of Combat Commander vibe I got from the hand of cards. I think the solo AI is pretty easy to run while still doing intelligent and challenging things. I like the variety of the solo campaign. But my big disclaimer about the game is, if you're looking at buying the core set and the solo just for solo play, you'll notice in my review all of my kind of mixes and negatives were with the solo and the value there. And I think just for solo this this is kind of expensive just to get 6 scenarios that don't even use everything in the game. If you think you'll play this 2-player at least occasionally, or even like kind of two-handed against yourself in solo, I think this game is a great value and has awesome gameplay. But if you're just buying the whole kit and caboodle to play just those 6 solo scenarios, it might be a bit of an iffy value proposition. But if you want to see one of the solo scenarios in action and judge for yourself, click the link that just popped up. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.